Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys are having a fantabulous weekend. I told you I wouldn't be back unless we had some, well, I don't know if it's breaking news, but it's definitely some detailed news that we're going to go over today. So let me speak to a few of you. I'm going to warn you that I'm going to go over an article. I'll tell you who it's written by, so it ain't written by me. So it's fair use, and it's not my opinions, it's the views and the opinions of this magazine. And it's very long. So you might want to get your snacks. You might want to get you a couple of drinks because this article has to be one of the most detailed articles about Bishop Whitehead. I mean, they connected with Mayor Eric Adams, but there's a lot of information about Bishop Whitehead that is in this article. And we're going to go over it today. So, hey, kicking it with Kim Sims and friends. Thank you for coming over. CBBJ, me, all y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Nessa. Hey, Amy. Sarah said, Carmen, Takia, Davita, Caramel, Kimmy, Kim. All y'all. Thank you guys. I see you guys coming on in here, floating on in here. Oh, you just got done singing with MLK event. Yes, yes, yes. We're still trying to realize the dream. It's a lot of ways to go, but we have come some ways. Hey, Linda. Alice, you made it. Linda, Shar, Stephanie. All right, y'all. You guys greeting each other now because I'm seeing the same people as I go through the chat. Hey, Kyrie. Thank you for joining. Hey. Patricia, hey. So, yeah, we've come together a few times this week, and you guys usually know I only come on about once a week. And I was really sitting here trying to get some work done, have some things due on Monday. And then I came across this article that literally just dropped. Yeah, because today is the 14th, and this article just dropped. So we're going to review this article, y'all. And if you're just coming in, you guys need to know that it's very, very long. Okay? It's very long. I may be able to skip over a few parts, but it's very long. So get your drink, get your snack, because we're going to be here for a minute. Hey, Baltimore. You know what, Kyrie? I'm not even fooling up with you today. I'm not. I'm not. Yes, please. Do what they said. They said hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you haven't done so already on your way in. Okay? We're not playing with you today, Kyrie. Okay, let me put this up here so you guys know what I'm talking about. Whoever did this article, he was very, very, very thorough. Like, he spent a lot of time. He has had to be working on this for a while now. Because I was like, you really got some time today. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, they want to interrupt my reading with a special offer. That's okay. Maybe next time. So this is the New Yorker. They have a sale too. 12 weeks for $6. But I'm going to take my little free subscription for right now. And the article is how Eric Adams started mentoring a con man. Why did New York Mayor take Lamar Whitehead, a fraudster Brooklyn church leader, under his wings? As I've said before, these are the views and opinions of this person that wrote this article. Let me say who the person is, because I don't want people coming for me. Eric Latch. And this was, as you see, dropped January 14, 2023. So we're talking about this under the fair use. The views and opinions of this article is not mine. But he did confirm some things that we talked about earlier this week when I talked about that indictment versus that civil lawsuit. We cracked the case on that, y'all. According to this article, we cracked the case. Yes, Thais. Thank you for coming over here. But you know. Woo! This article is really, really good. Get your snacks, get your drinks. So we're going to start out. This is how it starts, y'all. About a year ago, not long after Eric Adams was sworn in as the mayor of New York, an old friend and church leader named Lamore Whitehead went to an auto shop in the Bronx to drop off a Mercedes-Benz G-Class SUV that had been in a crash. Whitehead led a small church in Brooklyn called Leaders of Tomorrow International Ministries. People called him Bishop. The shop he visited, No Limit Auto Body, was operated by a man named Brandon Belmonte, who was involved in real estate. Y'all remember that civil lawsuit we just went over? Federal prosecutors would later refer to him as a businessman. Quote, the Mercedes was a $25,000 job. Belmonte paid the $13,000 bill for a rental replacement while the work was getting done. So, according to him, and contrary to that civil complaint we went over in the previous video that you need to look at if you need to catch up, because we won't have time to be putting up that lawsuit because this article is so long. They're saying, according to Belmonte, a conversation with him, I assume, that it was a $25,000 job. Belmonte paid $13,000 bill for a rental replacement while the work was getting done, and Whitehead wanted more. He basically says, you got to give me another $5,000, Belmonte recalled. Quote, I said, bro, the job was only $25,000. 13 and 5 is 18. The parts were $7,000. I'm going to make zero. It occurred to Belmonte that Whitehead wasn't trying to negotiate. He was asking for a kickback. He promised to make it worth Belmonte's while. Quote, I got City Hall in my back pocket, end quote, Whitehead said, according to Belmonte. Whitehead explained that he was close with Adams going back to when Adams was Brooklyn Borough president. He told Belmonte that Adams had once offered him a $50 million construction contract. Eric's doing big things, Whitehead continued. Quote, I got to get mine. End quote. He said, I got to get mine. He mentioned a property that Belmonte was developing in the Bronx. Quote, he said, Eric Adams can make it a homeless shelter and we'll get city benefits. End quote. Belmonte recalled. Whitehead offered to broker a meeting with Adams. Quote, he kept telling me, we're going to make millions together, end quote, Belmonte said. Quote, and he said, you got to give me the $5,000 or I'm going to beat you up. What? Wait a minute. He said if you don't get a $5,000, he said if you don't give him the $5,000, you guys, I know maybe the muffle comes in and out. This is just the internal computer, so I don't know why it would be muffled. But, oh, did you guys see that? Can you guys hear me better? Oh, you said that's better now. Let's go back. Because I didn't read all of this. I seen how long it was, and I was like, I'm just going to go live. So it seems like if it does go out, it'll come back in. I don't know why he does that, but that's what it seems like it's doing. So then it says, on a friend's advice, Belmonte called an investigator at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan. I said, I think the mayor of New York is on the tape, Belmonte recalled. And he said, what do you mean? And the investigator passionate colleagues of Belmonte told him his story. Quote, I said, the mayor of New York City is trying to extort me from someone else, he said. The next morning, FBI agents arrived at Belmonte's door. They asked Belmonte to call Whitehead and began reporting. Belmonte told Whitehead that he was ready to do business with him and the mayor. So apparently there's some reporting. According to Belmonte, I guess because he brought up the mayor, there was an assumption that somehow the mayor was involved. But we don't know if the mayor was involved. Let's proceed. Let me make sure nothing. I don't think anything is on my speaker. Maybe I'll come a little closer. And that'll help. Since the early days of his political career, Eric Adams had had his fill of allegations of corruption. In 1994, when Adams, then a 33-year-old transit cop, mounted a long shot campaign for Congress, his opponent, Brett Mayer. Okay, we're going to go past Mayer. And this is really bad. Let's start right here. Adams is probably the first New Yorker mayor to have dubious friendships. But Adams came into office with a special category of associates. Many had spent time with socially during his two terms as Brooklyn Borough president from 14 to 20. He has called a few of them his quote mentee. Now wasn't wait a minute. Wasn't it maybe it's I wonder if it sounded muffled. Let me see. Can you guys hear me now? I'll wait a second to see if you can hear me. Because maybe I need to just read it off my phone. Wait a minute. Can you guys hear me better? Better. I just turned the volume up. Okay. All right. Let me read it from my phone because maybe it's when I click out and click back in while I'm reading. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Uh, Well, I was talking about the mentee situation. Wasn't Whitehead like talking about what the mentor and mentee relationship means with other people? I don't understand how you can talk about that if you're the mentee of Eric Adams, but I digress. Okay. Among them are two brothers, Robert and Zon Petrosant, who pleaded guilty to financial crimes in 2014 and who ran a Manhattan restaurant, La Bella, where Adams as mayor dines frequently. Lamar Whitehead was also a protege of the mayor's, and he made sure everyone knew. In May, Whitehead claimed to have negotiated directly with the mayor the surrender of a man who was wanted for murder. Adams didn't deny this. He described the bishop as just one of many younger men whom he's taken under his wing. He's my mentor, Whitehead told the Post in May. We've done a lot of work in Brooklyn when he was the Brooklyn Borough president. He helped me out a lot. So he said Adams is his mentor. Moving right along. This was true during Adams' time as borough president. Whitehead, a convicted fraudster into identity theft, used Adams' name to promote his church and give a boost to his business interests. Adams, meanwhile, opened doors for the younger man, offering advice and inviting him to speak in high profile events. I think it's important to hear from some of our young people. A young pastor, Bishop Lamar Whitehead, Adams said, introducing Whitehead at a press conference in 2017 in the wake of a hate crime. This past July, Whitehead made national headline when videos of him being robbed during a church service while wearing what was reported as several $100,000 worth of jewelry went viral. The robbery prompted closer inspection of Whitehead's church. The city reported that a former parishioner had sued Whitehead, accusing him of stealing $90,000 from her after offering to help her buy a house. Adams called Whitehead after the robbery to offer his support. He just encouraged me to keep my head strong, Whitehead said. Brandon Belmonte. Now, for those that are coming in, according to this article and as we discussed in the last video, this is allegedly the second person that is in the indictment. Brandon Belmonte was not the first person to go to law enforcement with the suspicion that Whitehead and Adams were engaged in corruption. What? Yeah, I'm just going to put this title up here. That's the article if you guys want to check it out yourself. But I'm going to read it from my phone because it seems like it's better. Whitehead and Adams were engaged, and both men deny that their relationship goes beyond that of a mentor and mentee relationship. Everybody is trying to connect to me and the mayor with some fiduciary experience, Whitehead told me a few weeks ago. We don't talk about real estate. We don't talk about stocks. We talk about none of that. We talk about life. Some people who have worked with Adams suggested that his relationship with Whitehead is a representative of a character flaw. The mayor is unwilling to distance himself from people he's let into his life, even when it would be politically wise to do so. I have no experience of Eric crossing the line, a local politician said. That's different from the company he keeps. A few days before Christmas, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan announced that Whitehead had been arrested. Prosecutor in the office's public corruption unit said they caught him claiming to have influence at City Hall while trying to shake down Belmonte. Adams was not accused of any wrongdoing. Prosecutors said that Whitehead, while making his overtures to Belmonte, quote, knew that he could not obtain the city government actions he was promising. But it's not clear how the government reached that conclusion. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan declined to comment. Of course they did. It's an ongoing investigation. And it's an ongoing court case. I have no comment on the federal investigation, Adams said. He called the allegations troubling, but he wasn't ready to wash his hands of Whitehead, as a politician might be expected to do upon hearing that an associate dropped his name while trying to extort someone. Adams said he would let the investigative process play out. Whitehead is 44 years old. He has bright brown eyes and a wide, engaging smile. He often spends several hours a day live streaming on Facebook and Instagram, where he promotes his church and his luxurious lifestyle and denounces his enemies. Designer for days, he once said, giving his followers a virtual tour of his walk-in prayer closets, which was stuffed with clothing from Gucci, Fendi, and Louis Vuitton. Whitehead, who lives in a multi-million-dollar house in Paramus, New Jersey, advertises himself as an ascendant community leader in the multiplicity of realms: business, politics, religion, and entertainment. He has said that once one of his missions is to serve as the emissary between the streets and the church. In 2018, after the rapper Tekashi 69 pleaded guilty to making sexually explicit videos of a 13-year-old girl, Whitehead spoke in court on behalf of the rapper. I didn't know that Tekashi 69 was pleaded guilty to making sexually explicit videos. I thought he was engaged. Like, okay, I thought it was some gang stuff. Nevertheless, that's interesting that you would stand up for somebody. Oh. The bishop had to come through. 6ix9ine said in a video he posted on Instagram, "We had a situation." There are people all over the city who claim to have been conned, burned, harassed, lied to, or otherwise hurt by Whitehead. Many have reported Whitehead to the authorities, and several have come away feeling that Whitehead was protected by his relationship with Adams. Quote, "I could tell he was name dropping again, using Eric Adams again, and trying to discredit me," end quote. A pastor named Robin Brown wrote in an email to the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office in 2014 describing her attempts to report Whitehead to the NYPD. "I have lost all faith in the system." Brown declined to comment for this article. "I've tried to report him on several occasions at the local precinct, but to no avail." The Reverend Benny Custodio of Emmanuel First Spanish United Methodist Church in Park Slope, Brooklyn, wrote in a comment on his blog post about Whitehead in 2017. Quote, "This cardboard bishop is currently at my church doing the same thing he has done in the past, using the church to fatten his pockets. He knows the system very well and uses it to his advantage based on his close relationship he has with our borough president, Mr. Eric Adams," end quote. So y'all remember that video that I showed at the end of one of the videos where the guy was like giving him papers and he was like, "Call me cardboard bishop now. Call me cardboard bishop now." So I guess this is the person that he was talking about. Custodio declined to comment when I contacted him several months ago, when he just recently died in November. So apparently the pastor has died. Many Brooklyn church figures, business associates, and former friends of Whitehead's refused to speak to me for this article because they said they feared him. When he got angry, you could feel that menace. A man named Brian Etta told me recently. Etta showed me documents indicating that in 2006, while Whitehead was working for a mortgage broker, Whitehead helped sell Etta's home in Brooklyn and then pocketed proceeds from the sale. City records show that the property was later transferred to a company controlled by Whitehead. In 2013, Etta volunteered for Eric Adams' first campaign for Brooklyn's borough president, and at Adams' inauguration, he spotted Whitehead at Brooklyn Borough Hall. "I thought, this is brazen," Etta said. Quote, "A guy who wants to have an image of being squeaky clean, and this guy who is an actual criminal." Not long after Etta met him, Whitehead was convicted of a startling fraud on Long Island, using information that he'd obtained from a girlfriend, an employee at a Honda dealership in Patchogue, big word, I don't know what that says. Whitehead stole the identities of more than a dozen of the dealership's customers. He used those identities to purchase luxury vehicles. A prosecutor called it one of the largest identity theft cases Suffolk County had seen. Y'all remember we read those transcripts, and that's exactly what they said. During his trial, Whitehead got ordained as a pastor. I was told that he had already been ordained even before that, according to, I think, his website. But nevertheless, they said he wore clerical collars to court appearances. He said, quote, "I don't fear you," end quote. He told the judge at his sentencing in June 2008. After being found guilty of more than a dozen counts of identity theft, he said, quote, "I fear God," end quote. One of Whitehead's lawyers was Andre Solil, a former Republican political operative. Solil, who has lived abroad for the past several years, was disbarred in absentia in 2019 after being accused of bilking a Harlem nonprofit and of stealing from escrow accounts he set up during real estate transactions. Quote, "I will note that I've been merely accused," end quote, he told me when he called me recently. So now we're talking about his attorney that he used, or his former attorney, I guess, was accused of bilking a Harlem nonprofit. So Leo spoke with regret about the role he played in Adams and Whitehead's relationship. Quote, "I introduced them," end quote, he said. A City Hall spokesperson disputes this, claiming that Adams and Whitehead met at a, quote, "anti-violence event with rappers," end quote, on an unspecified date around 2014. But there are video and photographs available online of Adams and Whitehead together as early as 2013. So Leo claims he is also friends of the mayor's. Eric and I were close, he told me. According to Solil, they met in the 1990s when Solil worked at an aide for Rudy Giuliani in City Hall and George Pataki in the governor's office, and when Adams was still a cop and for a time a Republican. So, yeah, Adams was a Republican. So Leo helped organize fundraisers during Adams' first run for Brooklyn Borough president. An email invitation to a fundraiser during Adams' first Brooklyn Borough president campaign listed Leo as a co-chair besides Tiffany Raspberry, a current senior advisor to Adams at City Hall, and Jesse Hamilton, who succeeded Adams in the state senate. Oh, there's a lot more. So you guys clutch your pearls. I told you, get your drink and get your snacks. These people spent a lot of time on this article because I kept scrolling like it cannot be this long, but it is. So this is the first time I was reading it because I just skimmed it and figured we could read it together. So Leo's legal specialty was real estate. He played both sides of Brooklyn's gentrification boom, representing both working class homeowners and the aggressive real estate companies that flipped their. Whitehead, who for several years in the halls worked as a branch manager for a real estate company called Custom Capital Corporation. Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me. I don't know. I checked my sound before I came in. I don't. Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me now. Okay. Okay, so Whitehead, who for several years in the aughts worked as a branch manager for a real estate company called Custom Capital Corporation, was one of the few criminal defendants that Solil ever represented. Let me read that again. Whitehead, who for several years in the aughts worked as a branch manager for a real estate company called Custom Capital Corporation, was one of the few criminal defendants that Solil ever represented. Now it's feedback. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? I changed the setting. I don't know what this setting is, so I need to know if you can hear me. I don't know what this setting is, so we'll see if it works. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know why this computer is doing this. Whitehead was sentenced to at least a decade in prison, but he got out in the summer of 2013 after just 5 years. He would later tell people that his conviction had been overturned. He also said that he planned to get into politics. Soon after his release, Whitehead looked up his old lawyer and began hanging around Soleil's law office. Whitehead would visit Soleil at his office and ask him about technical, legal, and real estate matters. A few times, Soleil told him he came back to his office to find Whitehead there without permission, reading documents on his desk. Soleil remembers a holiday party that he threw the year Whitehead came home. Faced big city. In a restaurant, I'm sorry, I was distracted. So Leo remembers a holiday party that he threw the year Whitehead came home in a restaurant in Cobble Hill. So Leo's Hasidic real estate investor clients and his Black political world friends mingled. So Leo had invited Adams, who gave a speech. Whitehead, in Soleil's telling, had more or less invited himself. Halfway through the night, Soleil became aware that Whitehead and Adams were engaged in what Soleil remembered as an intense conversation. Shortly after that, he said it appeared that they had become best buddies. Soleil, along with others I spoke to for this story, believes that Adams saw something of himself in Whitehead. Oh my. They were both charismatic, ambitious, and brash. They have both been raised by single working class mothers in the outer boroughs, Adams in Jamaica, Queens, Whitehead in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Both had also experienced early run-ins with the law. Adams was beaten in the basement of a Queens police precinct when he was 15 years old. Years before the identity theft conviction, Whitehead was charged with 2 counts of forgery in the 3rd degree in New Mexico. Remember, we talked about in one of the former videos. If you want to know about that, go back there. The case was dismissed after he made full restitution to the victims. So once he made restitution, the cases in New Mexico were dismissed. People close to Adams say that he's conscious of how easily his life could have been different had he not joined the city's police ranks. Lamore is like his ID. Soleil said, we all like our IDs. I don't know what that even means. Oh, gosh. Yeah, there's more, guys. Early into his friendship with Adams, Whitehead was living with a friend named Aurora Gordon, who had an apartment in an affordable housing tower in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. Gordon, a decade older than Whitehead, had escaped from the World Trade Center in 9/11 and worked in the office of a tech company. In her spare time, she ran a small organization called Battered to Beautiful for survivors of domestic violence and other forms of abuse. Gordon helped Whitehead found a youth outreach ministry called Leaders of Tomorrow Brooklyn. They soon spun it out into an independent church. Quote, she thought that it was really going to be something big, and she thought he was an honest person, Gordon's sister told me. Whitehead, who in his early 20s had worked small jobs in the music industry and modeled streetwear. So he was a model for streetwear and he worked in the music business. Had a knack for getting close to the famous and the powerful. He referred to the rapper Foxy Brown, a Brooklyn icon, as his cousin. On Facebook and Instagram, he began chronicling his encounters with musicians, boxers, actors, radio personalities, and with Adams, the new borough president. Publicly, Whitehead referred to Adams as his mentor. Privately, he called him E. So that was like his homeboy. Like privately, he called him E. In one YouTube video from 2013, Whitehead interviews Adams at an event in Bedford and Bed-Stuy. We're going to be doing a lot of things together, Whitehead tells him. Thank you for being a patriarch for our Black community. Thank you for being an advocate for men, end quote. Whitehead and Adams met up at concerts, bars, and red carpet events. Gordon told people she knew that Whitehead often got out of bed in the middle of the night to go see Adams. With Adams' help, Whitehead connected with other politicians because in the business world and NYPD officials. Whitehead and Adams got together at Woodland, a restaurant at Flatbush Avenue where Adams liked to hang out after work hours. Woodland was the first restaurant run by the Petro Science brother who now run La Bea. This clique didn't exist when the mayor was in the state senate, a consultant who worked for one of Adams' rivals in the 2021 Democratic mayoral primary said, talking about the scene at Woodland. It formed around 2013. That was the year that Whitehead got out of prison, and when the Petrosense brothers were indicted by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn for conspiring with others to launder phony insurance payouts through shell companies. They later pleaded guilty to lesser charges. Whitehead told people that Adams planned to appoint him to the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and Adams asked community figures, political operators, business people, and religious leaders to join a committee called Leaders of Tomorrow, run by Whitehead, which met on at least one occasion. Quote, in politics, you run into everybody at the same meetings and stuff, end quote, one attendee remembered. Quote, this gentleman Lamar was new to a lot of us, end quote. Whitehead's appointment was so obvious. Whitehead's appointment was so obviously wrong. The attendees added that it, quote, could not have been a mistake, end quote. Brooklyn Borough President is a lofty sounding title for a relatively limited position. It's that remains of the office of the mayor of Brooklyn, a position that existed before 1898 when Brooklyn was still its own city. Today, the job is largely ceremonial. During his 8 years at Borough Hall, Adams issued proclamations in honor of Whitehead's friends, relatives, and connections in the music business, including Foxy Brown, who received a key to the city from Adams and Whitehead. Adam would declare July 31st, 2016 to be Leaders of Tomorrow Brooklyn Day in Brooklyn in honor of Whitehead's outstanding contributions to the community. A few weeks into his first term, Adam hosted a morning meet and greet at Brooklyn Borough Hall with local business leaders. City authorities later found that the event broke local political fundraising rules by soliciting contributions to the One Brooklyn Fund. The night of the meet and greet, Adams co-hosted an event with Whitehead at a high school in Bed-Stuy, advertised as One Brooklyn, even honoring Black History Month. Whitehead would use the One Brooklyn name for his own event and in various promotional material. A City Hall spokesperson told me that the One Brooklyn Fund never gave money to Whitehead. Among a borough president's remaining powers is a say in land use and real estate matters, such as neighborhood rezoning. In 2014, a community activist named Alicia Boyd hosted a meeting in her house to organize neighborhood opposition against a proposed rezoning east of Prospect Park, a proposal that Adams supported. They wanted to turn Empire Boulevard into Times Square, Boyd said. The night of the meeting, Whitehead showed up at Boyd's house along with roughly 10 other people. In Adams' name, they shouted the event down. He just carried on. He and his friends, yelling, screaming, Boyd said. They accused her of being anti-Black and of selfishly standing in the way of the first Black borough presidency in Brooklyn's history, even though Boyd is Black herself. Pamela Yard, who also attended the meeting, remembers Whitehead signaling the end of his group pro-Adams intrusion with martial discipline. It was like a scene from Malcolm X, she said. He did like a hand signal and they all turned around and they all walked out. So Leo found Adams to be surprisingly cautious borough president. He treaded carefully, perhaps because he had his sights set on City Hall. Whitehead was an exception to this rule. I thought that my friend Eric Adams was out of his beep mind, so Leo said. He gave this guy a key to Borough Hall. Whew, y'all, it's more. The personal indulgence that Adams has extended to Whitehead over the years is at odds with Adams' law and order public image. It's time for us to refocus our attention, not only as New Yorkers, but as Americans, on the decent, innocent people who are the victims of crimes, not those who are committing crimes, the mayor said in October. With Whitehead, he has taken a different track. Quote, I was arrested at 15 years old, and because people embraced me when I was arrested, I embraced Lamar Whitehead, end quote. Adams said in a 2016 after a Post article revealed that Whitehead had made false claims about collaborating with the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office and the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Quote, as a Black man, I have an obligation to mentor other Black men that have had negative encounters in their lives, Adams said earlier this year, talking about Whitehead. Quote, the bishop lost his father, Arthur Miller was his name, in a police incident, end quote. The murder of Miller, a Bahamian immigrant and prosperous businessman who was choked to death by a police officer in Crown Heights in 1978, was one of the most notorious acts of racist police violence in the New York City history. The Reverend Herbert Daugherty, a Brooklyn civil rights icon whom Adams has long considered a mentor, had helped to organize the community response. Later, Daugherty and the Brooklyn leaders would call for more young Black men to join the NYPD. Adams heeded the call. According to Whitehead, Miller's death was an inspiration for Adams to start 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care, an organization denouncing racism inside the police department. Arthur Miller had 4 children. Y'all, now we about to talk about Arthur Miller and the kids in the connection. Arthur Miller had 4 children with his wife, Florence. Whitehead was born in April of 1978, 6 weeks before Miller was killed to another woman. When I first heard from this young man, I was in my 20s. Lolisa Miller Bradford, the youngest child of Arthur and Florence Miller, told me. So the youngest child of Arthur and Florence said they just heard about Whitehead when she was in her 20s. Miller Bradford remembers that Whitehead called her in the early 2000s, claiming to be her half-brother and saying that he'd heard her family had received settlement money after Miller's death. Whitehead hadn't received money, he told her, and he wanted some in order to buy a Toyota Camry. Miller Bradford said that she and her siblings offered to fly Whitehead to Florida, where they now live, to take a DNA test, and he declined. I'm just taking a pause real quick because the views and opinions of this article are not the views of Pam or this channel or anybody in this chat. We're just reading what's out here in the New Yorker. You guys can look that up for yourself if you want to as well for further reference and reading. Okay, let's continue. In June 2014, Miller Bradford and her mother discovered that there had been a ceremony in Miller's honor on the block he was killed on. Adams and Whitehead had attended, and Adams had given a copy of an official proclamation about Miller to Whitehead. So Adams and Whitehead had attended, and Adams had given a copy of an official proclamation about Miller to Whitehead. Florence Miller wrote an email to Adams, quote, I do not want anyone using my husband's name or the tragic cold-blooded murder for publicity and or personal gain, end quote, she wrote. Quote, I was also informed, I'm not sure if this is fact or fiction, that you are working with Pastor Whitehead on different endeavors, which is not of my concern. However, if any of those endeavors consist of the use of my late husband's name and or his tragic death, I'm requesting it to be stopped. Miller Bradford received a call from Whitehead, who screamed at her. So Miller Bradford, the wife, is saying she got a call from Whitehead, who screamed at her. Then she got a call from Adams. Quote, try to work this out, end quote, she remembers. Adams telling her, quote, I want to support your family, end quote. The call left the Millers feeling that Adams had unfairly taken sides against them, a feeling that has only intensified in the years since, as they've received word of his continued support for Whitehead. Quote, Mr. Adams has not supported anything that Arthur Miller's real family has done, Miller Bradford said. Ooh. There were some who tried to warn Adams about Whitehead, and among those was Herbert Daughtry, now 92 years old. Daughtry has kept up with the Miller family over the years. When he first showed up, I was telling people, just be careful, Daughtry said of Whitehead. No matter whose son he is, if he's guilty of doing these things that they say that he's doing, Arthur Miller's memory cannot give him cover. According to Salil, who grew up in the church and was a minister himself, the message that Adams' treatment of Whitehead sent, particularly to the Black church community in Brooklyn, was that Whitehead could be trusted and that he had the backing of, quote, strong political forces. And that is how he was getting anywhere, Salil said. In the fall of 2014, Whitehead got approval to organize a gospel concert at the Barclays Center, the new arena in downtown Brooklyn. In parentheses, they have a press release for the event, noted that the concert would benefit leaders of Tomorrow Brooklyn, and touted that Adams would attend as a special guest. Marquee names in the gospel world signed on, but behind the scenes, the planning was a mess. Y'all make sure you hit this like and subscribe. It's 400. Put that cash up. Your girl's throat getting dry reading all this stuff. But I'm going to give it to you because I got this hot off the press. Whitehead repeatedly dismissed concerns about he was raising money for the event and how he would market it. He kept saying, I have the support of Eric Adams. Someone involved with the concert said he just had no idea what he was doing. The Barclays Center ultimately canceled the event despite the $150,000 that Whitehead had raised in order to put on the show. And in parentheses, it has Whitehead, through his lawyer, said that it was his own decision to cancel the Barclays concert. The concert was the turning point in Whitehead's relationship with a number of associates, including his collaborator and roommate, Aurora Gordon. It was your bad attitude and your rush to have money, end quote, Gordon wrote to him in an email that November, explaining why the concert had fallen apart. She listed more than a dozen people who were supposedly falling back or distancing themselves from Whitehead. Whitehead responded defiantly, for your information, Eric didn't fall back. And it got an exclamation point, so that's why I'm yelling. That month, Adams and Whitehead attended a ribbon cutting at Forno Rosso, a pizza restaurant opened by the Petrosense brother. By then, the brothers had pleaded guilty in the federal case. Thank you, LaFrance, for the cash app. I appreciate it. On November 10th, Robert Petrosian's lawyer submitted character testimonies to the judge, who would sentence his client, including a letter from Whitehead. Whitehead's giving character letters, y'all. Thank you so much, Faith Speaks. I appreciate the cash app. Whitehead, who claimed that the brothers were involved in the anti-childhood obesity program he was running. Wait, let's rewind that back. Let's rewind that back. Whitehead, who claimed that wait a minute, let's go back. On November 10th, Robert Petrosantis, I don't know how to say his last name. In school, I used to just say big word and keep it moving, but at least I'm going to try to sound it out first. But I don't mean to butcher anybody's name, so my apologies to Mr. Robert. Lawyer submitted character testimonies to the judge who would sentence his client, including a letter from Whitehead. Thank you, Alice, for the cash app. Shoot. I'm sorry, that just threw me off. Okay, let me start over. On November 10th, Robert P., his lawyer, submitted character testimony to the judge who would sentence his client, including a letter from Whitehead who claimed that the brothers were involved in an anti-childhood obesity program he was running. Without the tireless efforts of Robert and Zan, this program would never have offered, end quote, Whitehead wrote. I called Robert P. and asked how he knew Whitehead. Quote, he was one of the customers that used to go to a restaurant that I managed, end quote, he told me. Quote, never had anything to do with the guy's agenda. I don't know why he's linked to us, end quote. When I reminded Mr. P of the letter Whitehead wrote to the judge on his behalf, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tigger, for the cash out. I reminded Petrosense of the letter Whitehead wrote to the judge on his behalf and asked if he remembered the childhood obesity program. He said, quote, not me, but my brother did something. I don't recall. It was so long ago. So he write a character letter, according to this, to help this man in his federal case. Because what happens is you're trying to get the judge to get you as less as possible as a sentence. So you get a bunch of character letters to tell you how great you are, what you do for the community, and please have mercy because I'm better out than in. And Whitehead said, well, he's a great person. And we have this great anti-obesity program. And in this anti-obesity program, he's very, very beneficial and crucial in this program. Thank you. Thank you, Shelly Ann Pender. I appreciate the cash out. Oh, man. At this point, Whitehead had got back into real estate. He offers online real estate classes to his parishioners. One attendee told me that the classes solicited participants' personal data, including social security numbers and donations, which were termed, quote, love offerings. In early 2015, Whitehead's ex-wife, now we get into the ex-wife, y'all. Y'all, please hit that like. And please subscribe if you have not done so. In early 2015, Whitehead's ex-wife, Aisha Williams, accused Whitehead and Andre Solia of conspiring to steal the title to her house in an official grievance with the state court system. In response, Solia wrote to the court suggesting that Whitehead had acted on his own, stealing Solia's notary stamp and forging a power of attorney in his law firm's office. Williams declined to comment. So his ex-wife didn't want to comment on this, but there is a document that I did see that his ex-wife signed saying that he didn't have any permission or whatnot when it came to this property. Gordon eventually kicked Whitehead out of her apartment. Remember, he had the roommate earlier up in the article because we've been at this for almost an hour. So Gordon eventually kicked Whitehead out of her apartment. He responded by filing a lawsuit against her, prompting the affordable housing complex she lived in to investigate whether she'd been illegally subletting. Anguished Gordon went to Adams to complain about Whitehead. Adams told her that he didn't want to get involved, and according to her sister, then Gordon went to the Brooklyn DA's office. Gordon told the DA that her understanding was that Adams had promised Whitehead money. Gordon told the DA that her understanding was that Adams had promised Whitehead money. I worked 1.5 years for Lamore, believing he was in partnership with Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, who promised we will be funded by the end of the year. Gordon wrote in an email to the office's senior executive for law enforcement operations. She told the office about the $150,000 that Whitehead had raised for the Adams-backed Barclays Center concert. The money had come from Ron Borovinsky, one of the founders of a Brooklyn real estate company called My Ideal Property, which claimed to have flipped hundreds of millions of dollars worth of homes in the historically Black neighborhoods of central Brooklyn. Some of the company's operators were later indicted by the federal government for duping lenders and borrowers in real estate deals. Oh my. Borovinsky was not criminally charged. The case is ongoing. In her email, Gordon said she had learned that Ingrid Lewis Martin, Adams' closest advisor, had tried to get Adams to stay away from Whitehead. Quote, Eric is not listening, Gordon wrote. He and Lamar are in business together. The Brooklyn DA's office ultimately pursued 2 investigations into Whitehead during Adams' first term as borough president. One investigation was based on the information supplied by Gordon. The other stemmed from Aisha Williams' house title allegation against Whitehead and Solil. According to someone familiar with the office's operations at the time, Whitehead was one of several people close to Adams whom the office looked into under Ken Thompson, the DA who had pledged to stamp out government corruption. Both investigations into Whitehead ended without charges. Federal authorities are generally seen as better equipped at conducting complex corruption investigations, the source said. So wherever the source is, they say, oh, we're going to leave this to the feds. They're better at investigating this stuff. A spokesperson for City Hall told me that Adams never spoke to the Brooklyn DA about Whitehead. So Gordon died in November of 2020 of complications from COVID-19. Oh my goodness. All these people just dying. According to her mother and sister, on at least one occasion, she spoke to the FBI about Whitehead. So all of this conversation that the FBI is looking into him because of Reed, that don't sound like that according to this article. It sounds like that they were looking into him even prior to this year. Or last year, we're in 2023. So prior to 2022, according to this. According to her mother and sister, on at least one occasion, she spoke to the FBI about Whitehead. She kept records from her days of working with him, some of which they shared with me. To her last days, Gordon believed that Whitehead's arrest was imminent. Quote, listen to this quote, y'all. Bozo, you're going to see. They're going to get you. End quote. She told a friend not long before she fell ill. So she said, even in my death, they still gonna get you. On May 22nd, 2022, Daniel Enriquez, a 48-year-old researcher at Goldman Sachs, was riding the Q train when he was shot and killed by a fellow passenger. 2 days later, police arrested a suspect in the case, Andrew Abdullah. Reporters gathered outside an NYPD precinct house in Chinatown where Abdullah had been taken for a perp walk. Moments later, a gray Rolls-Royce SUV pulled up outside the precinct house. Whitehead got out of the car wearing a Fendi blazer and a large Episcopal ruby ring. He told reporters that he had negotiated Abdullah's surrender directly with Adams. Abdullah's family had gone to Whitehead knowing that he had a relationship with the mayor and had requested his help. When asked about this at a press conference, Adams said, quote, all I wanted was this bad guy off the street, and whoever wanted to participate in a system that's doing so in any way, that's good enough for me, end quote. Kristen Bruin, Abdullah's attorney at the Legal Aid Society, told me that Whitehead's actions in the lead up to Abdullah's arrest was reckless. He could have gotten someone killed, quote, she said. Initially, Whitehead had told her that he wanted Adams and Abdullah to come to his church, where the mayor would personally take the suspect into custody. So initially, Whitehead had told her that he wanted Mayor Adams and Abdullah to come to his church. A person accused of this violent crime, bring them to my church with my parishioners, and then the mayor can personally take them into custody. She said that Whitehead seemed to think that Adams was on board with this plan. Bruin, who was already negotiating Abdullah's surrender with the NYPD, believes that Whitehead's intrusion alarmed the authorities, prompting officers to pounce on Abdullah, guns drawn outside a legal aid office downtown, where he had gone to meet with Bruin before surrendering. After Abdullah was taken away, Whitehead got into an argument with Bruin. "Stay away from my client," she told him. To which Whitehead responded, "What did you say, you dumb biot?" He called her the B word, according to this article. She said, "Stay away from my client," she told him. And Whitehead responded, "What did you say, you dumb B?" By this point, the FBI was already investigating Whitehead. Early one morning last spring, now we get into the current indictment, y'all. That's why I told you this article is so long. By that point, the FBI was already investigating Whitehead. Early one morning last spring, Brandon Belmonte of No Limit Auto Body met federal agents at a Kohl's parking lot in Paramus. They handed him a short stack of $100 bills totaling $5,000 to give to Whitehead. Belmonte stuffed the bills in his left pants pocket. He then drove to Whitehead's house. Quote, "He just kept talking," end quote, Belmonte said. "He got more and more excited when he saw the money. He was like, 'I have the key to the city.'" It got an exclamation point there. "I have a key to the city." Soon after, Whitehead asked Belmonte for a larger sum, $500,000, to renovate some apartment buildings in Hartford, Connecticut. When Belmonte didn't send him the money, Whitehead was livid. He said, "You just lost City Hall." Belmonte said, and he started going crazy. In the weeks that followed, Whitehead would call him 30 or 40 times a day, shouting and cursing at Belmonte whenever he picked up. On July 24th, Whitehead's church was robbed. It was reported that Whitehead and his wife had been wearing between them two $75,000 watches, two $25,000 rings, and at least three crosses worth a combined value of $50,000. Speculation began to circulate online that the crime had been some kind of setup for an insurance payout. Whitehead spent the subsequent weeks in a frenzy, denying the accusations made against him, picking fights online. At one point, he threatened to beat up the comedian D.L. Hughley. They put that in the report. Rotating lawyers and trying to savage his public image. Quote, "Chief Madry, when this happened, he was over here in 10 minutes, he said at a press conference a few days after the robbery, mentioning the senior NYPD official, Chief Madry, who had joined Whitehead and Adams at past events. In late September, after federal prosecutors in Brooklyn announced the arrest of 2 of 3 men suspected of holding up Whitehead's church, the bishop claimed to have been vindicated. Quote, "This is a win today, because the narrative that was posted and presented was that I had something to do with the robbery," end quote. He told reporters outside Brooklyn federal court, "I just really want to thank God," end quote. In December, Adams graded his performance during his first year in office as a B+. At a press conference after Whitehead's arrest, Adams was asked what grade he'd give the bishop as a mentee in light of the federal case against him now. First of all, this is the mayor. I think that when you look at my work around mentoring and helping people, it's a fairly impressive one. One of these young people have gone on to do some good things with their lives. I'm sorry. He said, many of these young people have gone on to do some good things with their lives. But as for Whitehead, he should rate himself. Adams said, that's not my job to judge others. Adams declined to be interviewed for this article. A spokesperson for City Hall told me that the mayor and Whitehead had never worked together or made money together. Quote, he hasn't met with him once he became mayor, end quote, the spokesperson said of Whitehead. He's seen him from time to time at others' events where they both happen to be at. Whitehead also declined numerous requests to speak. A few days before he was arrested by the FB and the I waited for him outside the federal courthouse in Brooklyn, where there had been a hearing for the men charged in the church robbery. I'd find Whitehead's Rolls-Royce SUV parked on the street. Whitehead shook his head when he saw me, and he got in his car. Quote, stop with these questions, he said. No, we never did no real estate. We never did anything. I never did one business transaction with Eric, end quote. After his latest arrest, one of Whitehead's lawyers issued a statement indicating that the bishop denied all the new charges against him. Whitehead was soon back to live streaming, and he hinted that he had damaging information to reveal about Belmonte. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember when he said that? Where he was like, let me see if I got it. See if I screen recorded it.
Oh, yeah. Do your research. Some people been calling me about the other person that is in my indictment. They say, Bishop, we're going to show the world who he is.
That's what he said when he did his tour, or his not guilty video. So then it has on here in parens, Belmonte has a criminal record that dates back to his early 20s. On New Year's Eve, Whitehead hosted his church's first in-person event in several months. Oh, Lord. Whitehead live on IG. As midnight approached, he preached from the book of Job. Some 20 people attended. Outside the courthouse in Brooklyn, Whitehead had ended our encounter by driving away. I'd walked 2 or 3 blocks when I heard him shouting at me from his car across the street. He told me to meet him at the corner. He said he wanted to answer the question about Adams more fully. When I approached, he rolled down the window on the passenger side so that I could lean in. Quote, I want you to know, when you ask me about the mayor, I want you to understand that there is nothing, end quote. He said, he was a mentor. He's helped me as a man, and that's it. Then he drove off. That is the end of the article that took us over an hour to go through. Now, let me see. I heard he was on here live. Let's see what he's talking about. Oh. He's worshiping. The storms keep on raging in my life. And sometimes it's hard to tell the night from day. Still got a hope that lies within is reassured. Okay, y'all, I can't, because they gonna flag my video if I keep playing this man's song on here. But if the storms don't cease, and if the winds keep on blowing in my life, my soul has been. Y'all know that's the old school song. He in here worshiping. See, he over here worshiping. That article would make me go to God too. I'm telling you. Because they broke it down. They spent time on this article. That's why I was telling y'all, get your snacks and get your drinks. If you guys are just tuning in, you might want to go to the beginning. There was a few technical difficulties, and I know that. So y'all don't have to put that in my comments. You was muffled. You was muffled. Okay, I know. Okay, so y'all don't have to put that in the comments. People on here talking about he going to heck and all type. You know what? He's singing though. Oh my god. You know what though? All jokes aside, he's exhibiting some signs of some things. He appears to be exhibiting some signs of some things. No, he hip to the article. I'm sure. Who you gonna run? Who can I run to? Where you gonna run to? All of this stuff. Where you gonna go but to the Father? You gonna go to the feet of the Father, okay? Come on now. Is he really just gonna sing this whole song? Let me go to the comments. Oh Lord. So what you guys think of the article? Atlanta Born said, let me stop sharing this. If they offer him a deal, he better take it with the evidence they have stacked against him. They're gonna sentence him like he killed somebody. I just think it's crazy, like for you to literally blame one person for all of this stuff when all there's other people that are making various accusations. Yeah, he look a little, I don't know. Oh, I hope he start talking soon. I don't know what's happening with him right now. Yes, they were definitely he did. They did the work. They reached out to people. So what was interesting for me was we've heard about the Arthur Miller situation, and many people have been skeptical about it. And I remember, I believe it was on one of his lives where someone said that they were going to talk to the daughter, and he got really upset and was like, just because the family doesn't accept me. And so I think that's what triggered everybody to be like, let's figure out if this is even true. But according to this article, they asked, hey, we'll fly you here to do a DNA test, and you going around saying that my daddy is your daddy and you decline. He said his lawyer sent him the article. Okay. Somebody asking what did the article say. I can't Google and watch the live. He said he 10 toes down. He got another song he about to play. Y'all, I think, yeah. So what y'all think about the article? I want to get your thoughts. I know we've been on for a minute, but it's very interesting. Well, what happened? Oh, there you go. Very informative. This will not end well for the bishop. Too much to digest. Yeah, see, if you guys watched the last video, I had the court documents that was filed where he was suing somebody. I thought what was interesting in there is people that are scared of him. I'm like, what you scared of him for? He said that, I mean, his main things that he went to jail for and had issues with was like fraud and all of that type stuff. But like, I ain't see nothing real gangster about him. So what y'all scared for? Is it because they thought his connection to Mayor Adams that something can happen, or they tried to report things and they felt like they didn't get any back because of who he was connected to? But to be like, yeah, we, they feared him. I thought that was like, what? Feared him for what? The article just confirmed everything we all assume he's in the scammer system. Oh man. Like, where is he going? Why is he always in his car? Could y'all answer me that? Riddle me that. Who has that many places to go all the time? Oh, is he talking? Wait a minute. Y'all got to look at his facial expressions. I can't put the music on there. This is him singing his worship songs. Trying to look unbothered, unpressed. He don't care. Look at him. He got his imaginary guitar now. And he driving. And he playing guitars in the air while he's driving. Oh. Jack Black said, which used to kill me when he was running for borough president. You go live every night driving home, and you obviously don't live in BK anymore. That is true. Dr. Holt, I'm not playing with you over here. Oh my goodness. Shut up. You know what? Now he directing the choir. Hey, Speak says he must be feeling good after that bump because he been just what is going on right now? Could you guys explain? What is happening? So yeah, I can't go back over that article because as you see, it took an hour. So any new people coming in, please subscribe, please like. Thank you everybody for the cash apps, and just catch the replay. But it was a lot of information. The article is that the New York Journal. If you guys want to check it out for yourself, if you have some time to spend an hour reading an article, I try to do it for you guys. What is going on? He talking now? Okay, wait a minute.
This right here, boy, just
now he has Who sings yes? What's the name of that choir? You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, 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 yeah. Shekinah Glory. Shekinah, is it Shekinah Glory? Yeah, that's what he's playing now. He messing up. He gonna mess up this live if I keep on playing his stuff because he got music. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Saturday. It has been a pleasure. Um, we'll see if he starts talking, and then if he starts talking and says something worthwhile, we'll talk about that later. His days are numbered. Oh my. Yes, faith speaks. Okay, y'all. I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys for enduring my ghetto ness that was going on with my speaker. And hopefully I'll get it together. Or maybe use the microphones. But I'm going to holler at you guys later. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you again for all the cash apps and all the support and all the comments. We had a great time tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it the way that I enjoyed it. And I'm going to holler at you guys next time.